The DA has outlined how it plans to react to this robbery on the president's Phala farm. The party says it's going to approach the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI of the United States, to probe allegations of money laundering by President Cyril Ramaphosa. The party has already called on the president to come clean about exactly what happened. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by my colleague, Govan Whittles. Govan, good afternoon. The plot thickens, eh? Now, the DA taking this thing internationally, so to speak. What are these steps that the official opposition party of South Africa are planning to take?
Well, Bradan, they've outlined at least 9 sets of action that they plan to take to try and not only get to the truth of what happened at the Phala game farm, but also to try and hold some of South Africa's government officials to account. And we'll go through them, the famous of them being, of course, this letter to the FBI. Let's be clear on what the DA wants from the FBI here. They want the FBI to investigate the source of the dollars that was paid allegedly for game, and then furthermore they want the FBI to investigate whether that money came into South Africa legally and the necessary tax was paid on this. And then of course there are a number of other steps such as writing to the Financial Intelligence Center, asking them to investigate the transactions which were made by these alleged robbers and to trace where that money came from. And then they've written to a number of Chapter 9 institutions. We'll get to the other steps in a short while, Bradan, but let's get some clarity from John Steenhuisen regarding the FBI's role in this and exactly what they expect.
I've written to the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, to request that they investigate allegations of possible money laundering by the President. Specifically, we've requested that the FBI considers investigating the source of the funds and whether the money was brought into South Africa legitimately and declared to the appropriate authorities. We've also recommended that the ledgers or journals which recorded the alleged sale of wild game at an auction be requested from the President to determine the identities of those involved in the suspicious cash transactions. A cash transaction within South Africa involving $4 million is deeply suspicious, and more so that since then that the cash was allegedly stashed in furniture, and its theft investigated off the record and subsequently covered up.
Okay, John Steenhuisen of the DA explaining the matter of the DA. You said there are other steps, okay, and they want to hold some South African officials, government officials, to account. What's that about? Let's
begin with the National Police Commissioner. The Democratic Alliance have written to General Fani Masemola, asking him why Major General Wally Road was sent to Namibia, how much the investigation into the so-called Phala Gate has cost the taxpayers, and they're hoping to get a response on that soon. Then they've written to the department or to Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice, asking them to summon the Justice Minister Ronald Lamola to clarify to the MPs the current impasse of whether or not the Namibian officials reached out to South African officials and why no case number was allocated. Then, interestingly, they've written to the Public Works Minister, Patricia de Lille, asking Patricia de Lille if government money was spent in the security upgrades to the Phala farm in the immediate aftermath of the robbery. Remember that the statement said that security had been beefed up at the farm, and the DA wants to know if
who beefed it up? Who paid for the beefing up? Are we on to another Nkandla here or not? It's going to be very interesting what answer we get about that.
And then, similar to Nkandla, they've written to the Public Protector asking Advocate Galeka to investigate whether the President has breached the Executive Ethics Code and violated his oath of office to uphold the Constitution by conducting business at the Phala farm. And there's one more rider here. They've written to the Secretary of Cabinet, asking the Secretary of Cabinet for the records showing the financial declarations of the President when he came into office. They want to check if he declared the business at Phala game farm when he first came into office. Of course, if he didn't declare that, he would be in contravention of Section 96.
Yeah, and also in terms of that, because you're supposed to declare your business interactions or transactions all the time, the president telling the ANC, end of the ANC conference in Limpopo that particular Sunday, where he said, well, I'm a businessman, this was a business transaction, but he's supposed to be running the country, but he's got a business on the side. Do you declare and what's happening? And why don't you deposit the money in the bank? So what's next now? What's supposed to be next?
There's been a lot of questions around whether or not the president has violated his oath of office by not upholding the Constitution. But according to the Democratic Alliance, to determine that, you'd have to check whether he declared those business interests initially. And until we have that answer, we can't say that his conduct is at odds with the Constitution. What happens next is the Democratic Alliance expecting the Financial Intelligence Center to be the first to come back to them on whether or not they can pick up this investigation. But the real answers will come from the public protector, who will conduct a more substantive investigation into the alleged violation of the executive.
So advocate Kollega Kalega now has been reaching to as well. By the way, you mentioned the South African Financial Intelligence Center. Just a short while ago, I was speaking to Shelligan, a journalist in Namibia, in Windhoek. Their Financial Intelligence Center has also been investigating because there were dollars that came in illegally with that alleged mastermind. And they've written a report, but they're not releasing it yet. And the journalist in Namibia wants to see that Financial Intelligence Center's report of Namibia as well about this matter. The plot thickens. Thank you very much. That's Govan Whittles giving us an update of what the DA, the official opposition in the country, steps wants to take going forward, including having written to the FBI for investigation about, one, the source of the dollars that were found at the Phala farm that belongs to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and secondly, whether or not the currency that belongs to the U.S. came in legally and under what circumstances were those transactions made, among other things. It's going to be very interesting how these are responded to, including the issue of security upgrades that were supposedly done to Phala farm after that robbery in 2020. Who paid for that, if at all? Was it our government? Patricia de Lille has been reaching to as well as the Minister of Public Works to respond. Lots of questions. We're waiting for the answers. Still ahead on